You know, we have a problem in this country. We've got a bunch of problems in this country, right? We have more suicides by gun than any other developed country in the world. We have more homicides by gun than any other industrial developed country in the world. We have more accidental shootings by gun than any other country in the world. And we've got more police shootings than any other developed country in the world. The mayor of Baton Rouge is speaking right now. Here is the audio of what he has to say.
When it comes down to doing what's right. And so when we tell you these things and what's going on is very, very important that you understand we are doing our best to make sure we get all the answers. But one call that came in today was really one of a mayor, Mayor Stephanie Rollins Blake, out of Baltimore. And that call meant a lot from the standpoint that Baltimore has been through the same thing that we're witnessing here in Baton Rouge. And she said, we want you to know that we're willing to reach out to your city any way possible. But she not only stands up as the mayor of Baltimore, but the past president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so, therefore, we've had calls from all across the United States with mayors offering their help.
This is Kip Holden, the mayor of Baton Rouge, talking, and he's apparently moved on from the incident itself. He did say we need more transparency, we need more visibility. So the question in my mind, and I think at a certain level this is kind of evolutionary. That is to say, old generations die off, young generations come up, they have different value sets, laws change, and it takes a while for people to accommodate themselves to the new laws or even understand them or begin to comply with them. You know, we've seen this, and we're seeing this in a whole bunch of things that, you know, 30, 40 years ago, nobody even discussed, and now we're outraged about, we're getting very upset about. We're talking about this with college rape. We're talking about this, you know, with well, there's a whole variety of things. And I would like there to be more conversation about this with things like, for example, voting machines and the loss of our democracy and money in politics. But the issue of police killing people, particularly minorities, is, in my opinion, reflective of a couple of things. Number one, we have a police culture in the United States that in some ways is somewhat dysfunctional. And I think you can lay part of that at the feet of Hollywood. You can lay part of that at the feet of the Department of Defense and Ronald Reagan, you know, who started this whole program of let's get military equipment to the police. You know, SWAT teams didn't even exist when I was a kid growing up. And people weren't getting shot all, well, maybe they were, actually. I'm sure African Americans were getting shot all the time when I was a kid growing up. It just never made the news. And I was, you know, a white kid watching the news, and the news was all about white people back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Except when black people, quote, behaved badly. So at a certain level, there is like this, and by that I mean things like, you know, the Watts riots and whatnot. So at a certain level, there is this, which I would not call behaving badly, by the way. I would call venting your frustration. But at a certain level, there is like the process of waking people up, and this disruptive technology of cell phones is doing a spectacular job of waking up Americans, particularly white people. This is who we need to reach right now. I mean, black people in America know this. They understand the situation. You know, black parents have the talk with their kids. I was probably 50 years old before I even knew that black parents had to have a conversation with their kids about how to conduct themselves in public to avoid getting murdered by the police. That's how deeply buried in white privilege I was. And I don't think that I'm, you know, any kind of special, you know, white bread white boy. I mean, it's just I think that's probably the experience of most white people. And so as white people begin to understand the privilege that they have, that we have, that I have, when interacting with police or other authority figures, we also need to begin to empathize with people of color and say, you know, well, how would I feel if that was my father who was killed? This was the father of 5 children. How would I feel if that was my brother? How would I feel if that was my son? And to a large extent, frankly, I think it's these videos. I mean, we saw this with Rodney King 30 years ago. If it hadn't been for a video, nothing would have happened. The LA Police Department was beating the crap out of black people all the time. And one video. Well, now it's like happening all the time. So how do we change hearts and minds? I mean, I'm not sure you can pass a law, although we need laws about this. We need to upgrade our policing. The police in this country compared to police in other developed countries. Louise and I just spent a week in France. The police there are, well, it's just, we've got some serious problems, some serious cultural problems we've got to address. Your thoughts next.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.